You're listening to the Devil Dog Talk Show.
This show contains explicit material and is recommended for ages 18 and older for mature audiences only. But hey, it's the internet.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Double Dog Talk Show. Man, am I excited to have this conversation with Christina Betancourt Johnson of Standard Wellness. She has a lot going on, and I just want to kind of get to the meat and potatoes of what we need to talk to about today, because I'm excited about what you guys got going on over there, Christina. So, hey, how are you? Let's introduce you to a bit to our audience and listeners. How are you doing today, Christina?
Good. I'm really good. I've told you earlier, Joey, there's a lot of good stuff happening in Maryland, but a lot of good stuff happening inside of the company too. So there's never a dull moment. And I'm feeling great heading into the Thanksgiving holiday, actually.
That's beautiful. Yeah, we can't forget. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. That's exciting. Yeah. All right, so you run Standard Wellness out there in Maryland. Let's go in a little bit about that. What is that? What is Standard Wellness, and what is it about? Like, I'm very interested to learn.
Absolutely. So there are a couple of things. Standard Wellness Maryland is actually the overarching company for our vertical here in Maryland. So we do cannabis cultivation, obviously responsibly. We do, we will be doing some processing of our flower products and making them into other processed goods. And then we'll also be doing distribution through our retail arm of the business, and that name of the company, or one of those companies, is actually called The Forest, even though it falls under the Standard Wellness Maryland umbrella. So, we are a vertically integrated cannabis company. We oversee the entire process from Maryland, and it ensures sort of quality control and consistency across all products, but it also allows us to sort of operate on all three business lines from the values that we came up with the company as well. That's a little bit about the what of the business.
Got you. That's beautiful. So that's a lot of moving parts. Great, bigger vision type of execution going on over there.
Yeah, I think so. We really believe that cannabis changes lives, and it's not really just a business. It's a mission for us to make wellness acceptable and accessible while also being stigma free. We really put people first. And so for us, we're here to uplift the community, from our customers to the broader community that we operate in both Baltimore and Frederick, Maryland. Everything we do ties back to empowerment, education, and equity. And so we really feel like, in many ways, we're paving the way for what's next in Maryland. We're trying to bring style and soul and a little bit of sparkle to the cannabis space, because we think the future is bright. And as a woman-owned business, I'm really excited about paying attention to the details and the customers. We think that's an incredible part of our business and what is going to differentiate us from everybody else.
See, that's powerful, right? You're not just doing something that's really, it's cutting edge right now. The cannabis industry, as much as we don't want to admit it, there's a huge opportunity in it. And some people see it and some people don't. Some people think, oh yeah, like you brought it up, the stigmatization, just here's a bunch of people trying to get high or smoking this or that. And it's still out there, even in the medical realm. So I could only imagine, being East Coast, being a woman, being a woman of color and ethnic background, having those type of opportunities, not just adversely represented, but something where I've seen it with a few other guests. We had these conversations about equity, and it came from a space of intrigue. I don't, I'm a Mexican. I don't look Mexican though. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. I had to laugh at that.
That's okay.
And then I couldn't even swallow my own spit. Oh my God. Oh my God. God's like, hey, because you said you're a Mexican, here you go, stupid. And I'm like, all right, great. Thank you. All right. So being Mexican, it's hard because, I'm a lighter skinned Mexican. My whole family calls me güero, right? Gringo, even Miklo, I get it all. And that's something that I found interesting too, because you did say there that you have a Latina mix going on in there. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, that's what's up. I haven't seen anybody really discussing that out loud. Like, not only just being woman created or owned or integrated. It's a powerful thing seeing, La Raza or the Familia going out there and doing something like that. So why don't you fill us in a little bit about yourself besides that?
Yeah, so I think as the first African American and Latina majority owned vertical cannabis business, not just in Maryland, but in the country, we're breaking ceilings while also planting roots. What I would say, though, is that, we're going to be not only a part of this market, but a part of the movement. And I think that there is a widely accepted belief that cannabis should be of the people and for the people. And so there are a lot of organizations that are out here doing the sort of social equity work and inclusionary work and belonging work that's necessary to make this business industry sort of really thrive, the cannabis sector really thrive. I think the more diverse you have around the table. And I'm not just talking about sort of color diversity, because I do think a lot of people sometimes narrowly define diversity as like black and white. And it's so much more than that, like
exactly.
Diversity.
There's so much more.
Oh my God, so much more. It's gender, it's race, it's ethnicity, which is different than race. It's age, it's experience. It's all of these things that help us not only sort of qualify our demographics, but I think it's also in large part sort of how we've shown up in this world and what we've participated in, because the communities that we've integrated with and how we've integrated in those communities or interact with those communities are also a part of our experience that drive our perspective. And having a diverse sort of set of experiences coming to the table in the form of human beings in a business is important. It really is, because then you're able to respond to customers differently and in a more informed way. You're able to think in a very matrix-like way instead of linearly, because you have a very narrow perspective if you don't have diversity. And so I'm excited to be part of a much broader movement that I think is very much so true to the cannabis space. But there are challenges around social equity. And in my mind, the ideal versus the reality is, I don't know, it's serious. Like, social equity is a beautiful concept, but it's often more a buzzword than a blueprint. And I think true equity requires dismantling decades and decades of systemic barriers. And that's not a quick or easy fix. So I'm really excited to be a part of an industry that embraces it conceptually. But even more so at this point, I'm really excited to kind of drill down in our business at Standard Wellness Maryland and sort of put action behind that concept and to be part of sort of institutionalizing a new way of doing business that really we hope to eventually be the norm. No,
absolutely. That's something that I can really support, like, full-heartedly. Coming from a community myself that is marginalized and I wouldn't say well understood. We're not. The veteran community is something that is very unique.
Yeah.
It involves all the demographics, believe it or not, all the different interesting niches of demographics that could potentially even be considered. And here's the thing: we throw money at this concept called the veteran community, the VA, right? The Veterans Affairs. And just I love plugging this because I love putting it out there. Do you happen to know the current VA budget annually?
Off the top of my head,
just
no.
Just how about throw a random number? Let's think.
I can't even imagine.
So a lot of the numbers I've been getting lately is like a couple $100 million, and I'm like, that's cool. No, it's actually,
I'd imagine it's a lot bigger than that.
Well, you would think, right? And it is, because it's actually $360 billion a year. And it's projected to go up to $500 billion to about the year 2028 or 2030. So these are a lot of numbers, right? So what does it mean, Joey? What I'm trying to get to you is that you're right. It is a systemic thing, the way that our apparatuses and systems work. And I can only imagine the loops and hoops you had to jump through to get your license, which I can't wait to dive into a little bit here about that. But it's something unique to where you, a person of color, a woman, right, who's made this vertically integrated business, right? Very well structured, amazing. It's going to make the biggest changes in the world. It's going to be that beacon of light that's going to shine everybody on how to do it, the example, so to speak, right? And you're faced with the same kind of complex system that everybody else is. But here you are navigating through it, right? You're doing it in a great way. And you're really representing that, like you said, those tangible outcomes of not just saying, hey, I'm trying to do something. I'm not trying to say something. I am doing something. This is something. So I'd like to jump in a little bit more about your history. How did you get into the field, not only of cannabis, but, advocating and, speaking up?
Yeah, well, I don't think anybody around me would say that I struggle with speaking up or speaking out. I think from a very early age, like I've certainly had a voice and was always encouraged to use it. And I credit my parents for that. They certainly gave me some autonomy, even as a young child. And I had agency. Like I always was able to exercise how I felt through verbalizing, where I was at. And I think that that for them was important. It was an important exercise so that as I sort of came into the world as a young woman, as an adult, and certainly now as a businesswoman, that I felt that I had the confidence and I was prepared to sort of make my case for why I feel the way that I feel. I mean, I was never able to vocalize how I felt without justifying it. Let me say that. Like I always need to rationalize it, which I don't know that that's a healthy thing either, but certainly it gave me the training that I needed to be able to advocate for myself, advocate for the people who can't advocate for themselves, and certainly advocate for my team and the people that we serve. So I think it's been sort of a lifelong exercise of advocacy and expression. I would say that in the cannabis space, I got my start back in 2017, and I had the opportunity to partner with some folks and pursue licensure in Maryland. There's certainly a long story there, but I won't bore you or your listeners to death. But the long and short of it is I saw a unique space in American industry it was a burgeoning industry. It was because of the nascent nature of the industry. I thought it was one that could be shaped and influenced. I thought that there were already some incredible change makers involved in the sector from the West Coast to the East and North to the South that I looked up to and I admired. And I thought, it's a small enough pond to really actually make a splash in. And the opportunity after the pursuit of licensure was obviously once you get one, you can go after a few others. And for us, having a vertically integrated business in Maryland made a lot of sense, especially with sort of the federal restrictions on cannabis as a result of its scheduling. So, it's a storied history, but I would just say it, went from submission of an application in 2019 after 2 years of sort of grinding and learning and putting a team together and figuring out how to show up in this space and how to do so as a sort of conscious capitalist while putting your team first. And then waiting, right? Once we got the application in, we did not get licensed for another 3 years. And that was just the first license. So there was a lot of waiting. I couldn't work during that time. I couldn't have above a certain income, and it was pretty low, right? It was a modest income. And as a previous executive, I couldn't get hired. So I busied myself with learning and meeting as many people in the space as I could. I went to conferences. I took classes at Amsterdam and other online programs like through the edX program to learn for free. And then I, subscribed to as many things as I could online, newsletters. So I was staying on top of things like through Cannabis Business Times and other publications. And then once we did get licensed, obviously we had to shift gears a little bit. We had to fundraise. We had to put a team together. We had to then try to legalize in Maryland, which is something totally different, but it supported the industry. And I think, as a collective, we can do more. So there was just so many things that happened, I would say, in the last 7 years. And it's crazy to say I've been in this space for 7 years now that have all led up to this point where we're, launching a business and considering the entire three business units at once where they're operationalizing as a part of the Standard Wellness Maryland company. So it's been a journey for sure. And you did bring up sort of veterans earlier. And I don't want, that's like not lost on me. My stepfather served in the Navy. One of my best friends is actually in the Army. I do think that, what's really unique to me about veterans is that they've got a unique set of challenges that in several other industries you don't necessarily see as a challenge that's prevalent. So like mental health struggles, sort of the lack of accessible healthcare, especially with regards to cannabis, you all are restricted in the way that's pretty unique to those who are serving or who have served. I think, reintegration into civilian life, it's very different. You can leave the sort of alcohol and beverage industry and pop into another industry, and there's not that sort of significant shift from one sector into the next. I think that it's a big change for veterans when they come back out and have to, reintegrate into civilian life or a different workforce. And so I certainly think, I don't necessarily see them as part of what cannabis characterizes as social equity, but I certainly think they're an underserved community that deserves a seat at the table.
No, absolutely, yeah.
Of the service and sacrifice that they offer or that they've gone through, and then the discipline, leadership, and problem solving skills that they can offer when at the table. And so I think that there's certainly room at this big table that we have called our industry. And I think everybody should be a part of it, because I think that's what makes it great.
Exactly. It's believe it or not, community is a team sport, people. Like, I know it sounds weird to say because of whatever business models worked in the past, but let's be honest, when post-COVID hit, things that we learned during that, we learned how to do remote access. We learned how to proliferate messages and missions and do things in ways where we were never challenged to do so as a society. And now we're looking at the lessons learned.
Right.
And we're seeing it. We're seeing the gaps. Okay, we're seeing the gaps, of course. But we can also be seeing the solutions and those bridges to bring our communities up and continue to serve our nations, continue to serve our interests as people in this nation. Like, you bring it up with the equity, right? Equity is a term that is way beyond my head because there's smarter people in different rooms with different doors to get through in order to even understand how policy determines what that word means, But what I can say is that it's from a good root. And when you said that, we're starting from the roots and we're growing it up, I was like, man, that is beautiful. I'm gonna steal that. I'm gonna be saying that a lot lately, and in the near future. I'm serious. That's so beautiful.
Definitely, it's a community, so you can borrow it. This is an ecosystem, so whatever I have, you have. Feel free to share it.
That's beautiful. Now, as you're continued with this journey, right, and you see those three unique unit services or businesses, right? And you see the way that they can incorporate and they can help each other. They structure underneath this larger concept, standard wellness, right? Now, how did you get that? Was that through your education? It sounded like you were pretty autodidactic there, through your own personal growth and development, or was it something that was presented somewhere? Because it sounds like it was a unique vision to say, hey, I like this, and I'm going to put all these different parts together, and I'm going to do it this way. So what was the motivation behind that?
Yeah, well, I think choosing a vertical integration model for a cannabis business like ours is a strategic decision that aligns with, for us, both the operational control and long-term vision of the company. And, there are a number of things that you can consider. I'd say probably there are, as I'm quickly thinking about it, maybe 5 things in particular. I think, we're kind of control freaks a little bit. So from the moment it hits the soil to the time it reaches the shelves, it's like being the chef, the farmer, and the restaurant owner all at once. And there's no middlemen, so there's no compromises. And that especially is the case for quality and quality assurance too. So I think we wanted to go vertical because we're control freaks in the best way. I think for us, consistency was key. And so by managing every step of the process in that vertical operation, we ensure that every product reflects our standards, right? For care and quality, there's no surprises, no excuses, just sort of consistency our clients can rely on. Mm-hmm. I think it also allows us to tailor the entire customer journey. So from education to product lineup, to ensure it meets the unique needs of our community, a vertical helps us do that. And so I would also say that a vertical allows affordability and efficiency too, because when you cut out sort of the middle layers of an operation, it means that there's better pricing for the customers. And yes, there's also better profit for the business owners. So when we save on money and time because of efficacy and efficiency, they save on cost when they go to purchase the product at a dispensary. So it's certainly a win-win. And then I also think like we have the ability to have an innovative playground. And with vertical integration, it lets us innovate a little more freely. We can test new products, collaborate on new strains, refine our offerings without really waiting on outside suppliers. So this model, sort of in conclusion, isn't just a business model. It's like a philosophy. It lets us stay true to our mission, which is serving the community, serving our people, creating equity, and ensuring wellness from the ground up, like literally, while doing it responsibly and creating something that I think all of our team members can stand behind with pride. You know, it's allowing my team the ability to have autonomy over their business units and expertise. They can remain hands-on at every step, and then we can come back to our internal community to make sure that our products are strong as our roots and our purpose is sort of at the forefront of our why.
That is beautiful. I can literally feel the passion and purpose behind every word you're saying. Like, it's so dialed in. I'm like, oh my God, this is like the best example of anything anybody could be hearing. So listeners, I'm not saying push rewind just yet, but when you get to the end of this episode, my God, listen to this again and again and again and again. If you have a vision out there, this woman is just putting everybody on so much game, not just the cannabis industry. I got to point it out. Like, I'm super happy to have this conversation today because it was a pretty rough morning. I'm not going to lie. I have those. They tend to be more frequent than not, actually. No, but
oh, man.
It's all good. It's all good. That's the reason why I love cannabis. All right. Like, that's the reason why I am so impassioned by what you're saying, because coming from a advanced laboratory technician background, medical background, standards and quality, right? Consistency. It's not just quantitative; it's qualitative, right? If you're not involved in every step, it just creates more fat and more layers to break through red tape, right? All the impediments of industry and capitalism and what business could be removed, and here you are. Just like, hey, what's up? Like, here we are. Let's what up? Standard Wellness. That's right. Christina Betancourt Johnson, Standard Wellness. Let's go. On business.
I mean, we're figuring it out though, Joel. Nothing works right out of the gate perfectly. And so we very much so are still open to kind of refining along the way. But what we did do was start off with a vision where cannabis is respected as a safe, natural, and enjoyable means for healthy living. We really wanted to normalize cannabis and shift perspectives from stigma to acceptance. And then we had our mission. Like, we thought that health and wellness should be a source of fortitude, not judgment. And that's why we're here to help cannabis users everywhere sort of develop a positive relationship with their lifestyle choices. We want them to improve their wellness regimen and really live fully. And so from there, we developed our operational purpose. And I think the point is, we started off with a true north, and what we're trying to do is remain true to our true north. And so we put this sort of vision at the forefront of everything we do. And we're not just in the business for today. We're here to create a better, more accepting and healthier future. And you can only do that through high standards and education and sustainable practices. But we're really excited about what the future holds. And we think that we're paving a way for cannabis to be respected as a part of the wellness culture worldwide, not just in Maryland,
See, and that's so beautiful because you guys have, just a great and amazing vision. And I love it. So in Maryland, right? Where are you guys located again in Maryland?
So we have our dispensary, which is the Forest Dispensary, and that's our flagship store up in Baltimore, in the Canton neighborhood. And then we've got our corporate offices in Rockville for right now. And then we've got our cultivation and processing facility going to be in Frederick, Maryland. So we've got like a little triangle in between Frederick, Baltimore, and then Rockville, which is just north of DC.
That's beautiful. That is so beautiful, because when you think about the best way to implement change is to give people that experience, right? And I understand that, California has been a leading force in cannabis for a very long time. I was a patient on the Prop 215, and I seen the shift, the shift in California, the shift in the nation, the shift in different cannabidials and processing and materialization. What I've seen was the new industrial age for cannabis. And it's so motivating, because here you guys are, like you said, just a stone's throw from DC. Right? So what's the best way to affect change? Well, invite people to come on out. There's congressional representatives, senators, all these different types of people. And believe it or not, I'm pretty sure they don't have to be drug tested, unlike our military. Okay. That's something funny, but kind of not, right? In the same sense, give them that beautiful experience, actually what it means to have such a great and grand, it's not grand, it's a great and grand vision, but to be able to execute it and see that and have that true north and that operational purpose, because you're right, things are, shit's going to go wrong. It's going to hit the fan. You're going to get punched in the face. Even when you have a plan, you got to adapt and overcome. And that's something that, I'm 100% supportive. That's so beautiful. It's exciting.
It is exciting. And you mentioned being close to DC, for sure. I think being so close to the nation's capital, it actually offers its unique advantages, especially for cannabis businesses. I think one, we can influence policy and drive change, and being a stone's throw from DC puts us in the perfect position to advocate for the cannabis industry at the highest levels. And we're not just watching policy evolve, we're like part of the conversation. And it also the proximity allows us to build relationships with lawmakers and participate in regulatory discussions and set an example of how cannabis businesses can operate responsibly and equitably. And I think Maryland's cannabis market it's competitive, and being based here means we have to be at the top of our game. Tight markets demand strong ops and strategic vision and community engagement. And these are all things that we pride ourselves in delivering. So we feel like we can lead by example. And then, I would also just say we're able to drive the national conversations while being here locally, because Capitol Hill is a sort of dynamic space, and even Maryland is. And so we get to sort of blend our on the ground expertise with big picture thinking to affect real change. And so we are excited about the location. We think Maryland is great for all of those reasons.
That's so exciting. That's so, it's everything that you could wish and hope people in that space are thinking of and wanting to do with the best intentions. As a patient, as somebody that's involved, again, in the cannabis industry since 2011, right? I'm a huge advocate, huge proponent for all the right things and all the right reasons. And you're hitting every single checkbox. It's like, as a patient, what would I want? Sure, like you brought it up, vertically speaking, there is a lot more to take home for those involved. But let's be honest, you're the people hitting the home runs. I think relatively, if a guy or a person could, hit some home runs and make hundreds of millions of dollars playing a sport, maybe we should start, shifting that incentive to outcomes, right? And whether it be industry, whether it be cannabis, whether it be mental health, whether it be veteran services, whether it be equity, women's rights, whatever it is, right? We could have these conversations and say, hey, maybe, honestly, let's be 100%, right? If it's simply because of bureaucratic processes that the circumstances are the way they are, and it isn't some form of whatever, conspiracy or, cultural bias or whatever else, insert your perspective. Okay, folks, what if it is actually just the inundatedness of just administrative procedures and bureaucratic bullshit? Like, what if there's like everybody actually agrees with each other? Like, man, I wish I could give you this tomorrow. You waited 3 years, you said? Am I right? 3 years on that
Yeah,
license?
we did. From 2019 to 2022.
You see, that's the kind of thing that kills people. All right. What is that? What is that? What is it? Well, we have to legitimize the administrative costs and fees, because if we don't, then we don't get to charge them. But really, all that we have to do is put a stamp and read something. So why does it take so long? Well, because there's so many of them. I mean, I'm not the smartest of guys, but have you ever heard of those what do they call the employee hire for the days? Just hire a few employees for the day, right? Why not? Get a few hundred of them. Is it going to cost you $17 an hour? Right? Ooh. And then you get 100 of them. It's 100 times 17. You do it for 1 hour. You processed all the damn things because it only took them 5 minutes each. Oh my God, that sounds like a solution, right? I mean, come on. Even if it is delays because of, red tape or like you said too earlier about stigmatization. And that's something that I have experienced, intimately. And that's something that when you brought up the whole, you have to rationalize your experience and that not being good for your mental health, right on par with you. 100% agree. Because I could only imagine what it felt like, taking these huge steps confidently, right? And hitting these strides only to be met with a little bit of frustration points, a little bit of pain points, right? But again, you nailed it. I'm so happy to be talking about this. Is when you met adversity, you saw that as opportunity to learn, develop, and grow, right? You said it was like a practice or something, right? And I'm like, yeah, like, oh my God, that's such a great mental health way, just perspective as a human being to treat all adversity, right? Like, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, one of the most important things that you can be in this space or just as a leader in any space is adaptive, sort of reflective in a humble way, in real time, and patient. And so I think having those characteristics really allows you to respond to things in the moment, kind of, work through problems carefully. That's the patience piece. Understanding, if there's something that you can do to effectuate change and turn things around. But you have to also be sort of relentless about the things that you believe in. And so long as you're values based, I think that's a good thing. So I would just say, certainly my team helps me with all of this stuff because we're really aligned. And that's the other great thing sort of about the business that I'm in and what we're building here is that we have so much alignment. I mean, the culture is so strong in this company and I'm really proud of that.
That's so amazing. You're right. It's the culture. I've noticed that a lot in the cannabis industry is that there isn't as much gatekeeping as people would perceive. And I'm not trying to call people out. I'm not trying to say anything negative, but in the veteran community, my God, it's a fucking crab trap. Okay. One guy goes up, the other two trying to pull him down. It's a thing. And what I've seen in the cannabis culture and the community is it is not as volatile, even though it is very competitive. But it's a competition that of which enriches each other, not this, crab trappy feeling. And I don't know if that's your sensation fully around, but that's my observation as a patient. Like, it's something very unique. And I hope that all these different developing modalities of treatment, mental health care, such as, mushrooms is a big thing, but even just, general mushrooms, not necessarily psychedelics, MDMA is being discussed, 5-MeO, DMT, all of these things are a conversational point right now. And what I've noticed is I really what I'm saying is that the cannabis culture in of itself and the capitalism that is being produced is one of the most genuine types. Yeah, there's pain points and there's friction. Of course, there's a need for injection of balance. That's the reason why we invest in things like governments, okay? We believe in the philosophy of equity. We believe in the structure and the ideology of all persons created equal, right? It's a very little small change in the word, right? But it makes a huge difference. And when we do that, when we actually look at the words we use and we look at the apparatuses and we look at the systems and we look at the people succeeding like yourself at Standard Wellness there in Maryland and Forest Dispensary right there too, right? which is so amazing because I can't wait to go out and check everything out and, be around that space and just be like, hey, wow, this is amazing. I love that. I love the energy.
And I think it's reflective of the sector, like you said. I think the cannabis industry sort of grew out of a grassroots movement advocating for legalization, for medical use and equity. And many of us started as allies in a fight for legitimacy, which fostered some really deep connections and a sense of community and shared purpose. And I think that bond creates a culture where people want to see others succeed, because a win is a win for the whole industry. And I also think that there is sort of this camaraderie that's also birthed out of us all as business owners having common challenges. And so we all face the same hurdles: stigma, regulatory obstacles, limited access to financial services, burdensome taxes. And sort of these challenges, I think, create a sense of camaraderie because we're all navigating the same shitstorm, even if we're in different boats.
That's so true.
That's
so true.
And it is. And I think we also are all about healing and connection, whether it's through medical use or breaking the stigma around recreational use. That ethos sort of translates into how we treat one another in this space. And I think for all of those reasons, the cannabis sector's friendliness, if you will, or camaraderie, that sense of community and collective advancement, isn't just a nice to have. It's really a byproduct of our shared journey and our values and our shared challenges. And I think, across the sector, know that collaboration, not necessarily like competition that's cutthroat, is what will take this industry to new heights. And so I think we're certainly of the school of thought that a rising tide lifts all boats, because we have to be. And so I think that's a great thing. Like, this is an emerging industry where success for one company often benefits others. And so we got a stake in showing the world that cannabis can be done right. And I think we're doing it. There are a lot of companies that are in this fight, and it's not just the small operators or the folks that are on the West Coast that have been doing it for decades. It's also the MSOs and the larger entities. I mean, we really are soup to nuts in this together. So
that is so true. That is so true. And we are. And as an advocate and as a patient, I can tell you that the passion is very, very present in not only the way you present yourself and the reasons why and the methods of the accomplishments that you've gone through and obtained, but it's something that you're the whole big picture encapsulated. And I'm just going to say that out loud so the rest of the world can hear it. Christina is, everybody, the whole picture. So if you have an idea or concept, I'm not even trying to bullshit. Even the soup sandwich she was just explaining about governance and all this other crap. I'm like, look, it is. That's those rough points through life. That is what gives you that rough rub. When you build that with the team, when you build that with the person or a people, it gives you that sense of camaraderie, that sense of developing a rapport that gives you trust. And that's exactly what a lot of these things, the ideological governances need. They need to redevelop the sense of rapport and that camaraderie within that this thing of ours, this United States, believe it or not, folks, right? It is ours. It's for us. We shouldn't be so timid in the asks of which we wage amongst our representation, because it shouldn't be a fear-based ask or vision. It should be something big, something so big it scares you, so big that you reach for it, that you have to build a team, that you have assistants and assistants have assistants. You have 3 vertically integrated units that develop a great product, right? That provides something that is going to be leading and being that beacon in this industry. Now, that's just so powerful. I'm so happy to be having this conversation with you. And to kind of wrap it up, so we move on to the last phase of the show, I just want to kind of reiterate a little bit about how do we get in touch? How do we follow up? And how do we support you and what you got going on?
Yeah, thank you for actually asking. So, excuse me, if folks are in this area and they are interested in RSVPing for our grand opening, if they want to learn about the store and our giveaways, we would love for them to go to forestbaltimore.com. So just theforestbaltimore.com. And if folks want to stay in contact with us, via Instagram, with me directly, I'm at Instagram. My Instagram handle is CannaChris _. So CANNACHRIS _. I'm also on LinkedIn as Christina Betancourt Johnson. And you can also find the Forest Baltimore dispensary. We have a Instagram account as well. And so you can always go there if you want to kind of know what's going on with the company and what we're doing. It's The Forest Baltimore. So our handle on Instagram is The Forest Baltimore. So feel free to connect with us. We would love to see, all of the smiling faces that listen to your show actually come out for our grand opening, which we think will be launched at the end of the year. We're like everybody else at the mercy of the regulators and certainly our building inspections code folks in the city of Baltimore, but we're really excited and everyone's been really supportive. So we're looking forward to the launch of this incredible space that's going to be really something for the community to enjoy for hopefully years and years to come.
Beautiful, beautiful. Man, that is so exciting. I really hope that everything you've envisioned and are working so passionately towards culminates into that actual goal, because it sounds like what you've developed, what you've structured, and what your projected and trajectory is going towards. It sounds like you're going to just hit a home run, smackaroni and cheese in it straight out of the field, people. That's what's going to happen. Man.
Thank you. Joel, I think it's going to be great, and we're all looking forward to serving the community together for sure.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right then, folks, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Christina, if there's anything last words that you have to offer to our audience, it sounds like you have just an amazing opportunity going on out there in Maryland and Baltimore, and with the Forest Baltimore dispensary, as well as all the integrated and vertical units and opportunities that you're developing out there in Maryland. It's been an absolute pleasure spending this time with you on the phone and getting this episode out as soon as possible, because I really want the biggest effect for everybody that we bring onto the show. It's a passion of mine not to just talk about what we're doing, but be able to connect and connect our communities and say, hey, look at this opportunity. Hey, look at that opportunity. Get out there. Let's go have fun.
Absolutely. I think this is going to be an exciting time, an incredible year, and we just look forward to growing with people, growing as a company, and really growing into our purpose as we serve.
Well,